How's it going, guys? Welcome back to TheBlueShifting and welcome back to SeaBed. We have a very active viewership. I know, like, these videos, of course, don't get the solid views that my other series get at the moment, but for those of you who are here, we have some pretty intense conversations, so thank you. I'm looking forward to that. You're probably wondering, why are we here? Well, if you can't remember, last week at the very end of the episode, we unlocked 2 new tips. Now, it's been a little bit, but I believe I've got them right here. It looks like tips series 1 in the Narasaki clinic. I can't change that to anything, so I'm guessing that's the only ones I have. Now, we have done 008 and 208, because I remember those two had similar numbers. So it looks like we have the consultation room and the bedroom, which could possibly mean a lot of things. But yeah, so we're going to start off with these ones. I don't know if we'll get back to the main storyline. Just depends on how long these ones are. The last ones are decently long, but they could be anything, really. So we'll dive into these, have a quick conversation, look at some of this. Maybe it'll help shed some light on what the heck's going on. And then after that, we'll go back into the game. I believe we're starting chapter 2. So, man, this game's long. It's good, though. But, like, I wonder how many chapters there are. It's very interesting. But anyway, so the Narasaki clinic, consultation room, and I'm trying to remember. So if I remember correctly, room 008 was like a dusty room that hadn't been used in a while but had some memories, and then 208 had to do with Sachiko, who like was returned to the clinic again, and Narasaki was there, but Narasaki herself was acting odd, like she had some mental problems too. So I don't know, just it's interesting. Well, let's start with the consultation room. Oh boy, oh boy. Clock starts. Okay, this looks very familiar. I realized I'd been sleeping at the desk of my examination room. Okay, so this is not Dr. Narasaki again. The clock displayed the time as 10 p.m. I fixed up my hair, stood up, and took a can of beer from the fridge. As you do. I turned on the portable radio, and after adjusting the volume, focused my attention on writing the daily report. I might have called it a report, but it was no more than a roguish list of what had happened during the day, separated into a few sections. As such, I finished writing it with little difficulty. I also made known Sachiko's overall condition. She had yet to tell me anything vital. However, I felt like it was about time for me to act. With Takako gone, Sachiko came to live on her own. I had doubts that she could survive for long in her current condition. Ooh. A song I used to listen to came on the radio. I paused and took the opened beer can from the side of the table, but it was already empty. I stood up, walked to the freezer, and took out another can. I opened it and, after taking a gulp, shifted my gaze to the little window in the corner of the room. I could see the moon shining brightly in the cloudless sky. The sight made me calm down a little. She's so interesting. I flipped through the pages of one of the medical records I'd brought from the library. The early report said that this really did look more like a diary than anything. Okay. So one of the medical records from the library looked more like a diary. Huh. It was full of stories about Sachiko, me, and her usual companion, Takako. Oh, okay, wait, so medical records is a diary about the 3 of them. That's interesting. I'd see Sachiko maybe once or twice a year after we graduated elementary school, but Takako seemed to have been with her for the entire time. Those 2 were quite peculiar characters, to say the least. Okay. Already my mind's spinning. It's like trying to grasp at the straws here. As I finished reading the page, I realized the volume of the radio had gone down. As I glanced at the radio, I saw the red lamp indicate the life of the 2 AA batteries powering it had grown dim. I was about to go out completely. I considered removing the batteries and putting them back in. I even toyed with the idea of just shaking the radio. It was an old thing, though, with certain parts of it already rusting away, so I ultimately changed my mind. I finished listening to the distorted sound of the radio with a beer can in one hand and focused on finishing my report. So the most interesting tidbit I got from this so far is that apparently the 3 of them are in a book together, which is very odd. Because up until now, we haven't seen her really in anyone's memories, and Sachiko had no real memory of her besides occasional appearances. After a while, I realized I could hear a faint sound alongside the scraping noise of my pen against the paper. I paused, raising my head and straining my ears to listen. It was coming from somewhere close by. The more I listened, the more it sounded like someone's voice. I had no idea who was talking or what was being said, but it felt like someone who had been whispering somewhere in the vicinity. Also, I hate that ticking. Like, I've always hated clocks that tick loudly. I don't know why, but they really bug me. Ugh, it's just grating. I took a closer look at the radio, thinking it might have honed in on some weird wavelength, but its light had already gone completely dark. I considered the possibility of the sounds from Sachiko's room traveling all the way here due to some peculiarity of the mansion's design. Mansion. Okay. I thought her clinic was downtown Tokyo, was in a downtown, not Tokyo, but downtown city. The mansion's design. That sounds a lot more like the clinic that Takiko's at. But the sanatorium didn't feel like a mansion, did it? That kind of looked more like one. Although I could no longer hear anything, urged by curiosity, I left my room. Okay. I had a slightly bad feeling on my way to Sachiko's room. So do I! I don't know what to think! Felt like as though the corridor was colder than usual. The closer I got to her room, the colder it felt, and the worse my feeling of premonition became. Yeah. My first thought upon reaching her room was to open the door. However, I then realized there was no light coming from her room, and that was pretty much the middle of the night. I decided to first check if there were any sounds coming from the room first. Placing my ear against the door, I listened in. I felt like I could vaguely hear something when I was walking towards the room, but now it had fallen in complete silence. And after the music's making this weird at all. After spending another minute or so listening, I still heard no voices whatsoever. I began to wonder if I hadn't just been my imagination playing tricks on me all along. In the end, I pulled back from the door and gave it a light knock. There was no answer. I unlocked the door and slowly pushed open to make a small gap, all the while careful not to make a sound. The cold seeping out from inside made my skin tingle. Ooh, that sounds like a bad thing, like a window being open. A faint ray of light made its way inside from the corridor, gave a pitch-black room some color. I stopped pushing the door by the time the light reached up to the bed, and strained my eyes as I looked into the darkness. However, Sachiko wasn't there. Fetch! I pushed the door open and entered the room. Sachiko was nowhere to be seen. Yeah, that's probably not good. She's not mentally well. That could be it? Huh. Yeah, okay, well, fetch, man. Jeez. Ugh, not scary at all. Oh, just give me chills. Alright, well, that was a lot shorter. See, that's the thing. The length of these can be pretty long and short. Okay. Fetch, what is happening? Okay. So she found a journal. The only journal we keep hearing mentioned is something Takiko is supposed to be writing, like, every night about stuff. We know in Takiko's line, whenever she was talking to the nurse about her stories with Sachiko, it made the nurse cry. Like, it made her really sad. That makes me feel like that Sachiko's part of her condition somehow. But then Sachiko is having a condition where she imagines Takiko being there. And then Narasaki is someone who I don't feel like is branching into two storylines. But yet she seems like her clinic is not where it seemed to be in Sachiko's version of the story. It more closely resembles Takiko's version. So, are they both kind of true? Like, maybe we're getting half-truths from both of them, and like we're trying to reconstruct the truth out of both of their tales. Fetch, man. I don't know. Let's try to do the bedroom. Maybe that'll clarify something and not make it completely worse. That's more likely. This game is a trip, man. Oh my gosh. It is so different than any visual novel I've come across. This looks familiar. Maybe it's a continuation? No matter where I looked, Sachiko is nowhere to be found. Okay, yeah, this seems very much a continuation. I consider the possibility of having mistaken the rooms, but after taking a better look on the sheets of the bed were obviously wrinkled. I tried coming up with the most likely possibility for Sachiko not being here. The window! It wasn't exactly the time to go outside, but perhaps she couldn't sleep and wanted to take a walk in the night? However, I also had a feeling it wouldn't be something so simple. Consider it cold, and consider the fact you had to unlock the door to get in here. Both those things tend to tell me that she didn't go out the door. I turned my attention to the room. It was much colder in there than out in the corridor, but the windows were closed. I couldn't quite understand how that could have happened. However, I felt the room held the answer to her disappearance. Turn a light on! As such, I decided to investigate it. The room seemed even darker than usual. I could barely make out the contours of the plants in the corner. In the corner. It was possible my eyes were just tired, or there was something else I didn't think of, but I had a bad feeling about this. As I raised my face after checking the other side of the bed, I finally realized there was something left on top of it. It was the book that Sachiko used to read all the time after coming here. I picked it up and realized it was not a book, but rather a notebook with a leather cover. There was nothing written on either the cover or the back. I checked its weight with one hand. After a quick glance around the room, I returned my attention to the notebook. I felt hesitant to read her personal notes, but I had no other leads. Besides, Sachiko never left it like this before. Turn on a light, woman! I'm sorry, I didn't want to make this sound like I was mad because she was a woman. I was mad because she's not turning on the light. I made up my mind and opened it. There was no separate sections to indicate schedules. Instead, it was just a regular notebook with ruled lines. My kind of notebook. One neatly handwritten line followed another, making up sentence after sentence. I failed to buy the extra cheap cuttlefish for 100 yen, so I bought 2 sea breams for 200 yen instead. Okay. I paid 100 yen for my daikon, but I found one at the grocery that only cost 80. It's probably best to buy your fruit and vegetables at places like that. I went on a drive into the mountains with Sachiko. Wait. Oh, this sounds like it might be Takiko's notebook. On our way back, Sachiko spotted a pussy willow. Funny name. When I plucked one of the branches for ourselves, she worriedly asked if it was okay. But when she got home, she decorated our entrance with it. Sachiko's name came up, so I assumed the notebook was most likely written by Takiko. At first the notes seemed to be mostly about cooking, but as they went on, I realized she was noting down every single detail with little to no consistency. The date on the first page was from a year ago, and the notes continued jumping ahead days, sometimes even weeks, until they suddenly ceased, leaving most of the notebook blank. Okay, so this sounds like the notebook that Takiko wrote in her journal, because that's the if Takiko was writing a journal, that's how it would go. It'd be very sporadic. However, she was being asked to write that at the sanatorium when she was not around Sachiko. And so she was seeing visions of Sachiko, or maybe she was just recalling memories or dreams? Huh. I checked the later pages to confirm it was really blank, then flipped through the entire thing again, trying to not get too caught up in the details. There was a point where the writing suddenly changed. It seemed like some of these were written by Sachiko. Oh, cool. That's an interesting turn. The room suddenly grew completely dark. Turning around, I noticed that the door had closed behind me. Thinking that Sachiko might have returned, I closed the notebook. But it wasn't anything anywhere near as nice. Oh, fetch. As my eyes slowly grew used to the dark, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Oh no, I don't like this. I don't like this. The foliage planted by the door had disappeared, the bookshelf changed into a wardrobe, and there was no new closet by the door. Okay, what the heck? Before I knew it, I was standing in a completely unfamiliar room. I felt a bitter chill rise up my spine as I confirmed that the notebook in my hand hadn't changed. I turned around to see an unfamiliar bed with curtains. I pulled one of the curtains aside and looked at the bed. Takiko was sleeping on her back, with Sachiko nestled against her. Okay, we've gone through the looking glass, apparently. What was going on? Trying to keep up with this unexpected situation, I gave my surroundings another scrutinizing look. She's remaining relatively calm, considering this is not okay. I started with Takiko's face. My intuition told me that Takiko wasn't exactly alive. Ooh. Then I realized I'd missed something. The date on the first page of the notebook was last year. In other words, this notebook might contain a description of Takiko's death. I wondered why I failed to realize that as soon as I saw the date, but then again, weirder things have been happening around me tonight. Yeah! I couldn't blame my head for not being able to keep up. As I was organizing my thoughts, Sachiko slightly moved. Her eyelids slowly opened. We're gonna die. Okay. What the heck? I felt like time itself had stopped. Before long, however, I found myself transported back to the familiar confines of room 208. Okay. Oh! Oh dear. Ah. We are looking at another potential world line crossing story here. I don't know, that seems really bizarre, but that could explain why everything's so weird. Like... Okay. So, theory 1. All 3 of them are having hallucinations. It's possible. Maybe it's some kind of infection rather than just a simple, like, mental instability. Narasaki, like, eventually catches it from Sachiko. And so she was having a hallucination, not anything else. Path number 2. We're looking at 2 divergent stories that are existing simultaneously in multi-dimensional space. And these, like, crossovers are actually crossover events. Very, very reminiscent of some other plot lines that we're looking at right now. Dang, that could be interesting. And possibility number 3 is that it's neither of those, and I have no clue what's going on. What the heck? I'm telling you, man, or guys, girls, whoever. That's something to be wrapping my mind around. Then that's the other thing too, is these tips. Are they tips to try and, like, help me understand, or are they simply there to confuse me all the more? But we still have some stuff that seems maintained in the timeline. We have a notebook that Takako was apparently writing in, but then she stopped and she probably passed away. Then the notebook went in the hands of Sachiko, most likely, as an inheritance, and Sachiko continued to write in the notebook, likely pretending to be Takako, possibly as part of her delusion to try and keep Takako alive in her hallucination. Like, besides, like, making conversations up in her head and playing them out as if they were really going on, she also was apparently playing the role of Takako after her death. If that's the case, then we can still maintain the same timeline that we have experienced, where Sachiko and Takako are both experiencing things that are real. So I can see perhaps it has something to do with Sachiko and Takako traveling. Takako gets sick, sent to the sanatorium. Once she gets into the sanatorium, she decides to break up with Sachiko because she feels bad and doesn't want her. She wants Sachiko to move on. And then Takako dies. Sachiko, who never could handle the breakup, receives Takako's things, can't accept the fact that she's died, and then leads on this elaborate hallucination train that propagates this idea, but slowly starts to dim away, where she starts being able to handle it a bit better, but she also loses mental stability and becomes, like, insane by the end of. That leaves only one glaring hole, and that was the fact that Sachiko seemed to disappear from a room that was locked from the inside, and the windows hadn't been opened, that had a temperature change. And then when Narasaki was in there, she suddenly felt like she was taken to a completely different building where Sachiko and Takako were together, and then she suddenly was brought back from that room. Now, it's a lot easier to explain that away as a hallucination, but still, there's a lot of questions to what was real and what was not. I can accept the timeline as I structured it before. That seems to be going on pretty okay without too much malarkey going on. Like, that all makes a lot of sense. But that last scene really throws a wrench into that, because, like, is Dr. Narasaki also crazy? Like, that seems to be the only explanation for what just happened. But Sachiko still was missing. Like, physically seemed like she was not there anymore, and that's really strange. Maybe it was a dream of hers, but her dreams, like, are so intense, perhaps they're breaking reality a little bit. That could be a very interesting twist. Oh my gosh, there's really nothing out of the, like, that, like, there's no boundaries at this point, are there? But that's the end of those tips. So I don't know, what do you think of my breakdowns here? I feel like I'm having one. Let's go back to the main plot. Beautiful game still, though. Like, I really had no idea what I was getting into when I started this. I honestly thought we'd be done by now. Like, just because most of the smaller titles that I look at, like, and smaller titles, and like, not obviously not big but budgeted. But this one really, really is cranking it out. Alright, so we're in chapter 2, and I thought about this opening line after I finished the last one. I think we're switching back over to the Sachiko plot line. So, because remember, when we left her, she had somehow scheduled a trip to the mountains with the random lady she met in Italy when she was with Takako. And that she scheduled her own vacation without realizing she'd scheduled it. And she decided just to go with it. And that's what makes me think the winter forest and the train car door sliding open. I think we're with Sachiko now. Anyway, so the smell of the winter forest assaulted my nostrils as the train car's door slid open. The platform I stepped onto seemed to be made of stone. A gust of cold, humid wind blew a bunch of dried leaves up the mountain. Yeah, we're Sachiko now. Rumble, rumble. The rusted train left the station, its sluggish movements reminding me of an old man with a cane. The station was silent enough for me to make out even the rustling of grass. Stepping inside the station, I spotted a sign which the station name spelled on it. There's also a bluish plastic bench, its faded color the result of constant exposure to rainfall. Likely no one had sat in that thing for months. I took a few steps forward on the uneven stone-paved road with patches of grass sprouting from its cracks. My suitcase's wheel got stuck in one of the said cracks. Realizing I wouldn't get far like this, I picked it up and continued carrying it in my arms. I could see a large oak tree in front of the station. Alright. The station itself was a wooden building sporting wooden window frames with a broad, yawning station warden loitering around its vicinity. I began rummaging through the bag in my hands, looking for my magnetic ticket card. As I walked closer to the ticket machine, the warden finally noticed me. He was wearing a blue uniform, but his tie was crooked and he had no cap on. Yeah, probably pretty chill out here in the mountains. I soon spotted the cap hanging on the wall next to his desk when he was sitting at. Finally found my wallet. Exiting the station, my gaze once again fell on the same oak tree from before. Upon closer inspection, I noticed it was somewhat slanted, hanging above a narrow road that only had space for a single car. Ooh, wow, she went all out for her vacation. No, she's very cute. Speaking of which, there was an old-looking car parked on the side of it. Next to the said car stood a long-haired woman in a kimono. Okay, wait, so that's not Sachiko? That looks a lot like Sachiko. She was fixing her hair, looking at her vague reflection in the car window. As I approached her, she spotted me and turned around. Okay, no, definitely not Sachiko. You've got to admit, though, the character design is very similar. Miss Mizuno? That's right. Long time no see. Hope you don't mind my voices. I do terrible girl voices. It really has been a long time. You came to pick me up? Of course I did. Oh hey, just put your bag here. She opened the rear door of the car, her graceful movements in odd contrast with her somewhat crass manner of speak. That's very nice of her though, man. Picked up from the train station. With my bag on the back seat, me sitting in the front, our car began climbing the mountain path. Nanae was at the wheel. Seeing someone drive in a kimono was an odd sight to say the least. Still, she had to stuff her long sleeves into her sash and take off her clogs. I bet. We slowly but surely ascended the mountain, following the twisting, chaotic road. Near the curve to our left, we saw a rusted guardrail and a round mirror on an orange pole. To our right stretched a vast mountain slope, illuminated by sunlight filtering through the multitude of naked branches, their leaves long since shed. Nanae sounded a brief chuckle. Your fancy magnetic train card won't work here. Seems that way. Yeah, I'd never even considered it. So, that's why it took you a while to get out of the station. You totally caught me off guard since I figured you'd be coming with the next train. I watched the patchy shadows of the foliage above dance on the surface of the road. That's really impressive. They must have nothing going on if she could just wait at the train station and be like, whenever she shows up, she'll show up. Apparently, it rained recently. A few remaining drops of water sparkled on the leaves in the late afternoon sun. The car tilted a bit as we drove in one of the deeper puddles, the road with an audible splash. I held onto my seat, doing my best to maintain my balance. Better watch out. The roads around these parts can get tricky. Noted. The car seemed to have lost its seatbelt over the years. So I had no choice but to rely on the door handle to keep myself in place. That's not up to code. The leather seat would change its shape with every jerk of the car. Though rough to the touch, the seat wasn't uncomfortable to sit on. Accepted my weight with just the right amount of resistance. I'd probably kill that car. The interior wasn't made of cheap resin sheet, but quality wood. Most likely the only reason it hadn't completely fallen apart by now. I spotted an animal toy that looked like a cat with long ears and a small bottle with an aromatic dried flower hanging from the front mirror. The car's interior had that certain vintage smell to it, with a hint of an orange-like fragrance lingering about as well. Dang, this car seems like it's really seen its time. The sea will come into view with just a second to our left. Her words made me shift my gaze to the window. And... ooh. Through the leaves, the trichopin trees and the wild camellia bushes, I could make out a small port town, as well as the sea further beyond it. As I admired the deep blue hue of the waves visible through the moving foliage, a high-pitched sound, almost like a flute, filled my ears out of nowhere. Here's an interesting thing. Am I crazy? Does that kind of remind me of the village that was at the bottom of the hill where the sanatorium was? That could be an interesting cross-section. Was that a green pigeon? I fought with the handle for a while to roll down the stubborn window. The handle for a while. Okay. The wind, carrying the salty scent of sea, blew into my face. I brushed my hair off my face and listened to the cries of the winter birds as the cold wind caressed my skin. There's another thing. We managed to continue our proper road for a while, but soon enough we were back to driving through the rough mountainous path. If we continued down that road, we would have ended up at the port. Nanae began telling me how she participated in some hotel owner meeting in the town earlier today, and how she spent the rest of her time in the market district shopping for supplies. Apparently, she managed to find some unusually choice ingredients at the bargain price. In other words, I had dinner to look forward to. Well, that's handy. The trees became more scarce as we climbed higher up the mountain. There was almost nothing blocking my view of the port town anymore. From this angle, it looked like a split bowl opening to the sea. There were no tall structures in sight. The lack of obvious office buildings gave the land a sense of serenity and calmness. Sounds like the place I'd love to go vacation. Like, I don't know if I've ever mentioned this before, but like, as time's gone on, I've decided I definitely want to go to Japan someday, and of course I want to see like Akiba, Tokyo, walk down through, stroll through Tokyo, go to see Tokyo Tower. I'd love to go, oh, what was the other place? Shoot. I know it. Is it Kobe? I think it's Kobe. It's like the big city in the south. I want to see that. I want to see everything, honestly. But my ultimate dream vacation, when I picture like if I want to go to Japan, for a long, relaxing vacation, I'd want to go somewhere in the countryside in the mountains, somewhere nearby like an onsen, and be able to go and experience that. But mostly just like being in like a small countryside. Being able to like ride a bike around and I don't know, talk to just people probably who wouldn't want to talk to a stranger, especially a foreigner. But it's the countryside that really captures my attention. I watch International Me. It's a YouTuber, very fun. I invite you to check her out if you can. She does these awesome like tour videos in Japan where she talks about things like the first series I saw she was talking about like budget trips you can take if you live in the Tokyo area, but she started showing lots of different diverse parts of the country, and I'm glad because like it's showing the success that she's building on her channel because she's getting these opportunities to show off all these different places. And I was really impressed with some of the more rural ones, like just the things you can do there, like going and like looking at the orchards and like talking to just farmers and like working and seeing like people who are like craftsmen and work in the old styles, or going to these more isolated temples that don't get a bunch of tourism, so you can actually like sit and just experience it rather than being bombarded with a bunch of other people. Like, I of course want to see all the big touristy sites, but I've never liked that in vacations. I've never enjoyed being places that are loud and crazy all the time. Like, they're okay, but only in doses. Like, if I ever were to go to Japan for anything longer than like a week, I absolutely would want to go into these more rural areas and just kind of breathe, you know? I could do that here too, I suppose, but like being able to experience the culture alongside of like the quiet more countryside feel just seems so appealing to me. But also, that would be a place that would be really hard to like work around if you didn't speak the language. Yet another reason why I want to actually take the trouble and learn Japanese properly someday. It'd be a really fun place to spend just a good long vacation. Maybe something to do after like my wife and I retire. Like go to Japan and just have a quiet little vacation would be really fun. I've gotten all sentimental now. You got me talking about my trips that I hope to do someday that I'll probably never be able to afford. But this place really seems nice. And the fact that I can even I can picture this in my head so well is a testament to the writing of this scene. I feel like sometimes the story can get a little overwordy. Like it explores things so much it can get kind of tedious. So far, this explanation has been a lot more controlled. If we're going to talk about writing real quick, a good sign of writing, there's a writer I talk about a lot named Brandon Sanderson. I really like what he talks about. And he talks about in a scene like how to keep yourself from over-explaining things, because that can get tedious. And he said, instead of trying to explain an entire picture that you see in your mind when you want to capture a moment, focus on a few details and really like get really detailed, get really focused and really like in depth about them. Because if we can picture one element that kind of matches the tone of the rest of the area, the reader's mind can fill in the rest of the picture by just focusing almost like on a square foot of it. Like his example was if you wanted like to go into an abandoned building and you wanted to make an impact of how filthy and gross it is, he said you don't have to spend 20 pages explaining how the walls are gross and the floor is gross and everything's gross. Instead, you can focus on a rat that's like fleeing the building covered in filth, and like mention how like the building smelled so rank that the rats didn't even seem to want to be in there. Like that little sentence says so much about that actual building and what it's like in there than describing all the details. And I feel like that's what this is doing. It's described the scene a little bit, but like it's talking about things like how there's no office buildings, and so I feel like it makes it feel serene and calm. Like it doesn't have to describe the kinds of buildings that are there now, because I fill all that in, and that's really cool. Anyway, wow, that was one of my bigger rants. Let's continue on, see if we can get to this hotel before we have to end. It really made me feel like I'd entered the countryside. I spotted an arch that indicated the entrance to a shopping district. Beyond it, small buildings with red and blue roofs lined the road like a mosaic, and as the road edged closer to the sea, even those buildings became scarcer. There were ships and boats of various sizes anchored on the other end of the big levee surrounding the town. Some were even sailing into the sea as I watched. I noticed a lot of poles embedded in the Bay Area a little further away from the city. Are you building something there? I think those are seaweed farms. Oh. I love seaweed. How about you, Sachiko? I don't mind it. In that case, you should take some home with you. We've got plenty. We're almost there. As we cleared another curve with the lush, blooming red camellia blush, I suddenly felt as though I saw a thin line connecting the mountain and the port town. Can you see the gondola cable? I had to bring lots of stuff with me today, so I used the car. But it's usually a lot faster to just use that to get to town. That sounds like a fun way to get to town. My place is just a little further away from the station. I spotted a brown roof between the slanted white trunks of the trees and the reddening evening sky. The car took another turn at a three-way junction. Upon asking what was there at the opposite side, I learned that there was a small mountain village nearby. I heard the cry of a green pigeon again. Interesting. Why the pigeon? Why bring that up? Why make note of that? It all must mean something. It's like the Da Vinci Code. It's like, okay. Okay, this is looking a lot like the picture of the sanatorium. Am I going crazy? This looks a lot like it, doesn't it? We passed a hedge fence with several yellow flowers growing on it before reaching the actual inn. The actual building was colored a dull brown and looked like it could melt into snow-laden winter forest behind it at any moment. Windows with wooden frames lit the flat brick wall. Most of them were covered with ivory curtains from the other side. The tires made low crackling sounds as they drove over the gravel driveway. The car jerked a few times as Nanae slowed down and aligned the vehicle in the parking spot. After a few adjustments, we finally came to a complete halt. We're here. I stepped out of the car, feeling slightly wobbly after all that shaking, but the invigorating sense of flowers put me back into reality. I followed Nanae around the gravel road, which was covered almost completely in golden flower petals. Okay. Got another problem here. She described arriving here as being cold, with leaves on the ground, and nothing on the trees. It's clearly describing winter, or at least close to it. Why are there flowers? That can't be, that doesn't happen. Flowers don't bloom in the cold, because they're gonna die. What the heck? Okay, I'm starting to lean on the whole Sachiko is completely bonkers, and nothing that she sees is trustworthy. Impressed by how her sash didn't seem to come undone, all that shaking, I glanced over her shoulder to inspect the inn. Okay, here's another thing. First, this might be the sanatorium. Perhaps she's inventing a story of it being just like a little inn, but maybe she's actually checking herself into a sanatorium. It's possible that this is just a different person that works there. Secondly, I remember Takako talking about how she only saw, she lived on one wing, and then the other wing was kind of for different people. Could it possibly be that an inn and the sanatorium share the property? That's also a possibility. Fetch! No, so much happening. Alright, so that didn't come undone. After scanning, I glanced over her shoulder, inspect the inn. One side of the building was rounded and rose towards the sky like a tower, with lattice windows only adding to that image. It also had a pointy roof that reminded me of a witch's hat. From it extended a triangular roof with a few windows that covered the middle of the building. The rest of the roof was flat with a white fence for its parapet. The tall trees behind the building extended above its roof, their colored leaves rustling in the wind. So, okay, once again, colored leaves, and that's describing fall, so maybe we're in late fall? But still, flowers really wouldn't be around. The semicircular side of the building went out of view as I ascended the fan-shaped stone staircase at the entrance. The double doors had 3 rectangles carved in their bottom, and the windows at the top. Wow. So, yeah, and above the windows there's a rectangular patch of stained glass. Ooh, this is interesting. So this background right here that we're looking at is almost being described perfectly. Now either they found this image and they're just using it and describing it, or they constructed this image, in which case if this is the same building as the sanatorium we were describing before, it's because it's central to the whole plot, and they went to the trouble to get it rendered, which would also be kind of cool. Nanae picked up my bag with one hand and turning the metal handle with the other. Nanae. Okay, if I'm being stupid, and Nanae is the same name as the nurse that Takako talked to, because I can't remember. I don't think it was Nanae, but it could be. Am I going crazy? I might be going crazy. I'm gonna check that at the end of the episode to see. That would feel stupid if that's the case. She pushed the door half open with her shoulder and then turned back toward me. Welcome, dear guest. Ooh. Wait here for a bit. Nanae swiftly disappeared into the room beyond the lobby desk. The room felt completely silent with her gone. The sun had almost completely set, yet the lights in the lobby were still off. The only thing to illuminate the floor was a rectangular patch of colorful light that filtered in through the stained glass. For a while I kept staring absent-mindedly at the lobby desk. Its black wood surface was surprisingly cool to the touch. Behind the desk I could see a fancy-looking cabinet with arched cat-like legs. Upon the shelves I also spotted some old foreign-looking postcards, an artificial flower, and some early Christmas decorations among the other things. A transparent vase rested in the lobby desk with a camellia branch placed inside it. Next to it was a silver mechanical register decorated with vines. Sorry to have kept you waiting. Nanae appeared in the doorway holding a green journal. Okay, here's, in my defense, if I was wrong and that's the same name, obviously it's a different looking person. Right? She had different hair color for sure. Oh, it's working just fine, don't worry. Realizing I was looking at the register, she pushed one of the buttons, causing the lower half to open up with a lively ka-ching. There were a few bills and some coins inside. We don't really use it much, though. Then I closed it with another ka-ching. She then placed the journal on the lobby desk. I want you to sign your name here. Yes, here. Then here, and here. After pointing out 3 places on the paperwork with her folded fountain pen, Nanae popped the cap off and handed it to me. I signed my name 3 times. Ding dong. The grandfather clock in the tower near the far wall of the lobby had just struck the hour. The clock's hand signaled it was 5 o'clock. I'll show you to your room. Nanae stashed the journal under the desk and circled around it. I was about to nod when the camellia branch trembled in the vase, almost as if to answer in my stead. Okay. This is looking really familiar. We ascended semicircular stairs and took a right turn on the 2nd floor corridor. The floors creaked under my steps. Windows lined the walls on my right. Looking out one of them, I could see the inner yard and its stone-paved path through the crown of leaves. To my left, I noticed several doors, all of which bore the same designs as the ones at the entrance. We turned the corner to an L-shaped corridor with Nanae finally stopped. This is your room. Wow, looks really nice. Holy crap! She turned the key in the lock, opening the door. After entering the room, she left my bag on the side of the bed. I walked to the other end of the room and glanced outside through a large window, its elegant lace curtains swaying in the light breeze. It gave me a view of both the port town and the sea. That sounds awesome. I'll leave your key here. Nanae placed the key attached to the rectangular amber-colored and semi-transparent key holder on the nightstand next to the bed. Anyway, I'll get back to work now. You're free to go anywhere you want inside the inn. We also periodically check the windows, bathrooms, and so on, but as you can see, most of our equipment is pretty old, so don't hesitate to inform us if you find that lights don't work somewhere. I will. Thank you. I'd love to talk to you some more, so what would you say to having dinner together tonight? Ooh. And when would that be? About an hour or so. Sounds good to me. Cool. I'll come pick you up in an hour then. Okay. Nanae moved to the door and left the room after making a curt bow. After glancing out the window one more time, I sat down on the bed. It had a vine-like canopy that seemed carved out of wood. I took off my shoes and stretched my legs. After I was done with that, I joined my fingers and stretched my arms next. I had to step down from the sill to reach the floor, which was at slightly lower level than the door itself. The interior furniture was that of an old Western design. The green one-seater Victorian sofa had an acanthus leaf design carved into its leg. The color of the sofa's mahogany armrest had faded over time and looked almost black in certain spots. Ugh. That said, the springs seemed to be in perfect condition, with a tall backrest and the whole thing was a pleasure to sit on. I spotted a small chest in the cabinet that had carvings of lions on the side. An ivory plant was positioned on top of it, covering the upper half with vines. Fascinating. Once again, very true to the picture we were seeing. Which always begs the question of, like, maybe unless they just want to point out that the picture and background matches the description really, really well, why would they have to explain so much when I can see it? I keep going to the top of the page and making that bar appear. Sorry about that. The white porcelain cup made an elegant clang as I placed it back down in the saucer. Ah, that's right. I remember that year. I came back from finding the entire place covered in heaps of snow. Hardly something I'll forget considering how little it snows around these parts. Time sure flies, doesn't it? Oh, there's our Sachiko. No, or is that Nanae? I don't know, they look like the same person! That was how Nanae replied when I brought up the year we met. Thank you for showing me around that time. Who knows where I would have ended up without your help. Oh, don't sweat it. Nanae made a mischievous smile. She looks a lot like Sachiko. The blackwood table in the middle of the dining room had engraved ivory and cosmos flowers on its side. That's cool, cosmos flowers. It was supported by spindly legs whose shape reminded me of dewdrops. So, do you like it? Like what? Our mansion. Yes, it's quite something. I'm glad it didn't disappoint. I expected a smaller place since you told me you managed it alone. I'm not really doing it alone. My auntie's also here. And during peak seasons, we hire part-timers from town to help. Unfortunately, we don't have a hot spring on the premises, so there aren't many customers around this time of year. She let out a sigh. I see. That explains why you have time for dinner with me. That's the long and short of it, yeah. Cheerfulness returned to Nanae's features. A gust of wind suddenly swept through the room, making the candles light the candle lights between Nanae and myself flicker. Do you always use candles for lighting here? No, those are for special occasions. Okay, I think she's coming on a little strong, Sachiko. Don't you find it romantic? Oh, that went from like a 7 to 10 right there. There were dark windows on the wall behind Nanae. While giving it a closer look, I spotted the shadows of tree leaves fluttering in the darkness like wavelets in the night sea. With the table taking up almost the entire space of a relatively narrow candlelight dinner room, I almost felt like I was in the cabin of some western ship, and she's completely dodging the question. It's like we're sailing on a ship. If that's the case, I hope it's a merchant vessel. Why? It costs a fortune to transport all this furniture from overseas. I see. Have you acquired anything new lately? A few things, as usual. Our ship's not departing tonight? We're resupplying water and foodstuffs right now. What the heck? Oh, okay. I'm confused. And once that is done? Oh, so they're just like kind of talking. Well, the wind looks favorable. There's not a single cloud in the sky. We could sail at any time, if that's what you wish. Nanae let out a hearty sailor-like guffaw. Are you always like that? Nanae asked after we both calmed down. No way. Takako was always like that, though, I added. Sounds like a fun person to be around. Shame I didn't get to meet her. I bet the two of you would hit it off. Nanae made an amenable smile again. She seemed to possess an entire repertoire of smiles, and I knew how to use them. As a result, I ended up revealing more than I originally intended. I shut my mouth and shifted my gaze to the window behind her. Beyond the huge shadow of the mountain, bright stars decorated the night sky. It really was a huge mansion. Couldn't imagine how Nanae, who was more or less my age, ended up owning such a place. You said your aunt was also working here, but what about your parents? I don't have any. My mother passed away when I was little, and as far as I know, my father ran off before I was even born. Jeez. Nanae said that as though it was nothing. I see. Nanae made another smile, perfectly attuned to the situation. It didn't seem like she was bothered, so it would have been odd for me to apologize. Now, not knowing what to do, I shifted my attention to the food. Wow, that's a lot of food. Steam billowed forth from the boiled radishes. I used the chopsticks to slice one. I put it in my mouth, tasting its warmth. You prepared quite a feast today. I could smell the mouth-watering, salty, sweet aroma of the well-seasoned meat and potato stew. Among the many plates on the table, besides the radish, there was also one for a sea bream sashimi with seashell leaves. I picked up an oyster from another plate and put it in my mouth, feeling its gentle sweetness spread across my tongue. Never had oyster before. Takako was not a fan of the taste, and would always move oysters to my plate. Okay, by the way, to defend that, most seafood I don't trust. I've had a lot of seafood I didn't like, and my opinion is that I really should. I don't want to have anything that's not super fresh, or even reasonably fresh. Like I grew up in the middle of like desert mountains. Any fish that was sent up that way was pretty heavily frozen, and that's if it was even decent quality. I have had some good fish in my day since then, but I pretty consistently decided that mollusks are something I'm going to reserve until I know I'm getting good ones. I don't want to like ruin that experience for myself. Don't be shy to speak up if there's anything you don't like. And you don't need to eat everything. I'll happily finish your leftovers. I'm not particularly picky about my food. Thank you. I felt the slippery texture of the oyster in my mouth. A mellow sweetness enveloped my tongue as I bit through the flesh. Ugh. The fact that Takako disliked this was still baffling to me. I let my gaze settle on the flickering candle lights up in the gently swaying chandelier as I reminisced. The two candle holders lined up on the table below seemed to be designed in a fashion similar to the chandelier. I recall seeing an almost identical chandelier in the lobby room, too. Gentle orange light illuminated the room. Did you find any good furniture that day? Nanae looked up from her food, momentarily ceasing her attempts to separate a portion of the fish from the stubborn bone, using only her chopsticks. Yeah, I got really lucky that day. I managed to find a mahogany sofa and a writing desk with glass doors. The sofa is actually the one in your room. I recalled the green Victorian sofa I saw in my room. You have good taste. Thanks. From the other end of the table, I could see Nanae flash another smile. So I heard the brief rattling of the windows. The wind must have picked up a bit. It's just seasonal wind, said Nanae. I shifted my gaze to the window. In these parts, the winds get stronger around the same time every year. Don't worry though, it won't blow the entire building over or anything. Oddly specific. I'm glad to hear that. Nanae, after sipping out all the soup left in her spoon, stuck it in my direction for me to inspect. The good thing about antiques is that they can stand the test of time. Look at this spoon, for example. It's been around for half a century, and with enough care and maintenance, it will stay in tip-top shape for another 50 years, no problem. Nanae showed me the other side of the spoon by rotating it in her grip. In the past, these things weren't as common and expendable as they are today, so every article made was made with care and actual master of the craft rather than machines. I see. I felt as though I heard someone knocking on the wall. That's also the wind. I wonder if it left one of the windows open. Another gust clashed against the windows behind Nanae. Soon after, I heard the knocking sound again from the direction of the corridor. Did you think that was a ghost? I don't believe in such things like that. I see. Phew, I'm full. Nanae placed her plate back on the table. There was a few more plates on Nanae's side as we finished eating. You really ate it all. This is nothing. If anything, I'm still a bit hungry. Looking after the inn requires quite a bit of physical work, you know. Besides, this is dinner. We heard the same knocking sound from the corridor. Want to go look around the area tomorrow? I can show you around. Nanae pushed her chair back and leaned forward against the table. Are you sure I wouldn't be imposing on you too much? Of course not. I want to do it myself. Plus, she has nothing else to do. In that case, I'll take you up on the offer. Alright, you just leave everything to me. I'll show you all the best places. Okay. Well, this is fascinating. Yeah, so gonna do a quick check. See if I can find out. I want to make sure I'm not crazy and that they don't have the same name. Nanae. Okay, so I'm gonna do this real fast. I'll be right back. Okay, so I'm not crazy. It's Mayuko, not Nanae. But still, this is all getting weird. So it's either just a timeline that we're slowly getting a picture of that just doesn't make sense yet, or we're going to some weird, backcrap, crazy sci-fi going on. God, I run into a lot of those stories, don't I? Even the last short one I did, which was it was like a miniature garden. Like that was a whole like sci-fi, like warped reality type situation. Good grief. Anyway, though, so today's episode pretty interesting. We're back with Sachiko, which is nice. I kind of miss Takako. I like her like viewpoint in life. But Sachiko's nice. I'm hoping we can start connecting some more dots. Those tips were very fascinating, terrifyingly creepy. But we'll have to see what those mean at another time, hopefully. But I don't know. Regardless, things are pretty exciting around these parts, though. Do you guys have any thoughts that you want to share? Without spoilers, of course. But I know you guys are better than that, so thank you so much for that. I'd love to hear what you think about my thoughts and like my huge, massive rants. I'm like, if you guys don't like them, I don't know why you're still here, but you guys claim to like them, so I'll do them. But yeah, no, I got to get pretty real in this one, and it's just nice to be able to kind of touch base and kind of see. Because like this game is weird because it's so disconcerting because I don't understand what's going on, but at the same time it's so pleasant and chill. It's like, I don't know. It kind of reminds me of being sick in a way. Like not the kind where you're just like constantly in pain, but the kind where you're like kind of vaguely in and out. Like when you're coming out of anesthesia, for instance. It's like where you almost are in a dream. That's what this that's what this visual novel feels like. It's like I'm dreaming it. It's really cool. But yeah, so very, very impressed with this so far. And I can't wait to see what happens in the next episode. So thank you so much for being here today. Thank you so much for joining me. As always, you guys are awesome. And until the next video you watch with me or whatever you see me in next, see you there.